When it comes to Kendrick Lamar, and when it comes to Drake, if you want to understand how giant melting ice cubes somehow became the center of an album rollout, and why insiders are now revealing what Iceman is supposedly really about, leave a like and let's jump straight into it. Because yes, diss tracks are apparently coming. And yes, the main target is exactly the person everyone already expected.
Before anything else though, it's honestly insane that Drake managed to reignite his fan base simply by placing giant ice blocks outside without releasing a single actual song. So leave a like, subscribe, and help thaw out the Icemen, because the Drake stans have officially reached another level. People are standing around frozen cubes like they're witnessing a historical cultural event, when all Drake really did was hide a hard drive inside some ice. No music, no snippets, just frozen water somehow carrying an entire rollout. The whole ice gimmick clearly appeals to Drake's younger audience and the streamer crowd obsessed with viral spectacle. But honestly, that part isn't even the interesting thing here. What actually matters is the information reportedly surfacing behind the scenes about the album itself. Because while fans are treating the cube like it contains the secrets of the universe, insiders are already describing what Iceman supposedly sounds like. And once you really think about it, the direction this album is taking in 2026 almost feels impossible to process.
And to be clear, I'm not here to blindly hype up Iceman. I want to focus on what credible industry sources are actually saying about this project. And based on the information coming out, the central concept behind the album is something that honestly shouldn't surprise anyone after the last 2 years, even if it still sounds ridiculous. Because no matter how impressive you think Drake's ice sculptures are, none of that spectacle actually has anything to do with the music itself. Whether people think the ice rollout is genius marketing or the corniest thing ever honestly doesn't matter. What matters is the music that eventually comes out of it. And right now, Drake's entire strategy feels centered around presentation over substance. He's trying to rebuild hype and momentum before listeners have even heard a single song. And honestly, that alone says a lot about how much confidence may actually exist around the music internally.
Because think about what's really happening here. Drake didn't release a track, he didn't preview a snippet, he gave nobody an actual musical reason to believe in the project yet. He simply rolled out giant ice blocks, and people immediately treated it like an event. That's the power of a massive brand surviving almost entirely on nostalgia and image. And while it's enough to keep people talking, it still isn't music. Until the album actually drops, none of this really changes Drake's standing in hip-hop. To be fair though, there's clearly more effort going into the Iceman rollout than almost any Drake album launch in recent memory. The theatrics, the symbolism, the cinematic presentation, all of it feels extremely intentional. And honestly, that at least shows Drake understands how important this moment is for his career. The problem is that spectacle without substance eventually hits a ceiling. At some point, the music itself has to justify all the smoke, visuals, and frozen pyramids surrounding it.
And that's really the core problem. Drake keeps teasing the existence of music without actually delivering any music. The latest gimmick is supposedly a hard drive hidden inside the ice structure, containing the release date once the ice melts. Which means we are literally waiting for frozen water to melt in 2026 just to learn when an album might come out from one of the biggest artists in modern music history. And honestly, we are not about to sit here pretending this is some revolutionary rollout strategy, while Drake tries to rewrite the last 2 years of hip-hop history with what feels like a Fortnite live event. So instead of watching ice slowly melt, let's focus on what insiders are reportedly saying the album actually contains. Because this information comes from a source with a very strong track record. Somebody who correctly predicted Baby Keem's announcement timing, Don Toliver's release date, Harry Styles' rollout, and several other major projects this year. And according to that insider, here's what Iceman is supposedly shaping up to be.
Drake is reportedly planning to address his enemies directly throughout Iceman. Internally, the album is allegedly being described as the most lyrical project of his career. And yes, the release date is supposedly hidden inside the ice structure itself. But honestly, the important part isn't the release gimmick, it's the actual direction of the album. Because when you strip away all the hype, what insiders are describing sounds like a full revenge record, a project almost entirely centered around Drake targeting everyone he feels wronged him over the past 2 years. Which is exactly what every leak, every snippet, and every OVO talking point has been hinting toward for months. And honestly, the most lyrical Drake album ever claimed deserves skepticism immediately. We already heard almost identical hype during the For All the Dogs rollout. Lil Yachty made basically the same promise, Fans got excited, expectations exploded, and then the album arrived feeling bloated and forgettable to a huge portion of listeners. So unless Drake completely rebuilt his creative process behind the scenes, there's no reason to blindly trust those claims now just because a different insider is repeating them.
What does feel believable, though, is the possibility that Iceman could contain more diss tracks than almost any rap album we've ever seen. Drake has spent nearly 2 years sitting inside resentment, frustration, and unresolved grudges. He's been rewriting responses, flipping Not Like Us references in leaked snippets, and obsessing over the same themes repeatedly. All that built-up bitterness was eventually going to land somewhere, and based on everything surrounding this rollout, it's apparently going to land on a very long list of people. Every talking point coming from the OVO side points toward the exact same conclusion. This is going to be an aggressive, bars-focused confrontation album centered around beef and fallout. And honestly, that direction makes sense commercially. Because the only Drake-related content generating real engagement lately has been directly tied to the Kendrick situation. What Did I Miss created discussion because it touched the beef. Meanwhile, songs like Doghouse and Which One, which avoided the drama entirely, became some of Drake's weakest commercial performances in years. Drake and his team clearly understand what still keeps audiences paying attention.
And obviously, sitting at the very top of the target list is Kendrick Lamar himself, the artist who completely shifted the rap landscape and sent Drake into what's now become a 2-year public spiral. We're essentially approaching Drake's attempt at round 2, nearly 2 full years after he first started hinting at a response. But honestly, the biggest question was never whether Drake can still rap competitively. The real question is whether anyone can still take him seriously in battle rap after everything he chose to do outside the music afterward. Because here's the unavoidable problem. Drake could theoretically create the greatest diss track ever recorded. He could lyrically dismantle Kendrick Lamar completely. And none of that changes one massive contradiction. This is still the same person who took a rap battle into court, attempted to challenge long-standing free speech protections, and tried using defamation law against somebody for winning a rap beef publicly. You cannot try criminalizing diss tracks and then return to hip-hop demanding everyone respect your diss tracks. The contradiction is simply too massive.
And honestly, Kendrick doesn't even need to respond anymore for Drake to lose this situation publicly. Kendrick can stay home, stay silent, go enjoy life completely unbothered. Because the second Drake releases diss tracks while simultaneously suing over diss tracks directed at him, every rapper, journalist, and fan paying attention is immediately going to point out the hypocrisy. There's no marketing strategy capable of fixing that contradiction. Either you believe diss tracks are protected artistic expression, or you sue over them. You can't convincingly do both. And honestly, the potential target list on Iceman sounds exhausting by itself. Kendrick is obviously receiving most of the bars, but beyond him, does Drake target Jay-Z over the Super Bowl situation? Does he revisit old problems with Pusha T? Do Tyler, Schoolboy Q, Ab-Soul, or Pharrell catch shots too? Are Joe Budden, Ebro, and Peter Rosenberg getting mentioned directly for criticizing him publicly? And outside rap entirely, does LeBron James, who Drake clearly seems to feel personally betrayed by, become one of the album's biggest targets too?
Based on the snippets already leaked, Schoolboy Q getting name-dropped, Not Like Us hooks repeatedly flipped, Drake has clearly been obsessing over these people for a long time. But the bigger issue isn't even who he targets, it's the pattern behind how Drake approaches conflict. Because throughout his career, he's consistently shifted beef toward women connected to his rivals instead of confronting only the rivals themselves. And if he repeats that pattern throughout Iceman, targeting Whitney, Savannah James, Virginia Williams, or others, the backlash could become catastrophic. Because targeting women who aren't part of rap culture and can't realistically defend themselves inside battle rap while simultaneously suing over a diss track aimed at you creates a PR disaster no amount of spin can repair. And honestly, Drake's history strongly suggests that's exactly the direction this could go. Because nearly every major Drake beef eventually shifts toward personal relationships and women connected to his rivals. And every single time, it ends up making him look worse than the actual bars themselves.
Drake also clearly understands that the theatrics themselves are carrying a huge portion of this rollout. The smoke visuals, the Adonis clips, the frozen fortress imagery. He knows the music alone probably can't instantly shift public perception anymore, So instead, he's trying to create the feeling of a massive cultural event first and let the music ride the momentum afterward. Strategically, it's smart. The problem is that this only works if the music eventually lives up to the spectacle, and honestly, nobody around Drake seems fully confident that it will. The deepest issue surrounding Iceman isn't whether the bars are good or whether the production sounds polished. It's that Drake created a situation where his credibility inside battle rap is permanently compromised, regardless of how strong the music actually is. He wants to position himself as a competitive rap aggressor while simultaneously trying to legally punish competitive rap. He wants to criticize what people say about him while suing over criticism directed at him. He's been trying to play both victim and aggressor for 2 straight years, and those identities fundamentally cannot coexist.
And honestly, that contradiction is probably going to define Iceman more than the music itself. Even if Drake somehow delivers the most energetic, lyrical, focused album of his entire career, every conversation surrounding it will immediately return to the lawsuit, the legal filings, the hypocrisy. The reality that the same person making aggressive diss records has also been trying to create legal consequences around aggressive diss records. That's the box Drake locked himself inside, and no amount of ice sculptures or cinematic episodes can pull him out of it now. What Drake genuinely needed to do, and what he clearly isn't doing, was make an album focused on himself. Not Kendrick, not LeBron, not Pusha T. Himself. An introspective project, something about accountability, growth, reflection, and understanding why the last 2 years unfolded the way they did. That's the album that could have genuinely rebuilt public respect. Instead, what we're apparently getting is a revenge album aimed everywhere except inward. And revenge albums coming from damaged public positions rarely create the cultural moment the artist expects. Usually, they create mockery.
Because honestly, every signal surrounding Iceman, the leaks, the rollout, the legal filings, the smoke effects, the ice cubes, points toward the same conclusion. Drake has not emotionally processed what happened. He hasn't moved on. He hasn't grown from it. He's creating music from unresolved anger and wounded pride rather than genuine artistic clarity. And albums created from that emotional space rarely age well. They don't become classics. They become cautionary tales. And meanwhile, the lawsuit is still ongoing in the background, still active, still expanding, still reminding everybody watching that Drake intends to continue fighting this publicly, no matter what it costs him financially or culturally. Which means even after Iceman eventually drops, there's no clean slate waiting on the other side. Every interview, every review, every reaction is still going to circle back to the legal situation automatically. Drake permanently attached the album to that narrative himself.
So when you combine everything together, the diss-heavy concept, the ongoing lawsuit, the history of targeting women connected to rivals, and the contradiction of making battle rap music while suing over battle rap, what you end up with is an album almost designed to fail culturally before anyone even presses play. Not because Drake can't make music, but because the circumstances surrounding the music make it nearly impossible for the album to land the way he needs it to. The one genuinely interesting question left is how Drake plans to address the lawsuit on the album itself, if he addresses it at all, because he has to acknowledge it somehow. If he completely ignores it and starts throwing diss bars like the last 2 years never happened, the silence around the legal situation becomes louder than anything he actually says. And if he tries recontextualizing the lawsuit into something less damaging, he probably exposes himself even further trying to explain it away.
At the end of the day, this is what the entire situation really comes down to. Drake is preparing to step back into battle rap using the exact same weapon, diss tracks, that he simultaneously tried to challenge legally through the court system. And somehow he seems convinced enough smoke effects, cinematic visuals, and giant ice sculptures will distract people from noticing. They won't. Hip-hop remembers everything, and the culture is going to approach this album with that contradiction already front and center before the music even begins. And honestly, the full target list alone could become one of the wildest parts of the album. Kendrick at the top, LeBron possibly second, then Pusha T, then Jay-Z, then media personalities, then women connected to rivals, maybe even completely unexpected names. Drake has apparently spent 2 years building a mental list of grievances, and when all of that finally spills out publicly, the sheer amount of bitterness on display could honestly become historic. But a massive target list doesn't automatically create a great album, and that's the trap Drake is walking directly into right now. A project attacking Kendrick Lamar, LeBron James, Pusha T, Jay-Z, Schoolboy Q, multiple women, and various media personalities doesn't feel like a comeback. It feels like a documented public crash-out, a giant archive of unresolved grudges. And people are going to laugh, not necessarily because every diss is weak, but because Drake permanently undermined his own credibility in the exact space where those disses are supposed to matter most. And honestly, that's what Drake should probably be thinking about instead of first-week streams or academics' livestream reactions. Legacy. What does this album represent 5 or 10 years from now? When people look back at the Iceman era, the lawsuits, the Ice Cubes, the Rollout theatrics, the leaks, what story does it tell? And based on everything surrounding this project right now, the story looks less like a comeback and more like an artist who couldn't emotionally accept losing, chose bitterness over growth, and ultimately created an album that accelerated his decline instead of reversing it.
Because the albums that actually survive inside hip-hop culture are the ones revealing something real and vulnerable about the artist behind them. Not just competitive bars, genuine honesty. Drake making an album entirely about how much he hates Kendrick Lamar, LeBron James, and Pusha T isn't that. It's the complete opposite. It's an album that may ultimately tell listeners exactly who Drake became after the beef. And honestly, that picture probably won't be flattering. And if Drake really does target women throughout the album, Savannah James, Whitney, Virginia Williams, Rihanna, Serena, then he'll basically be confirming Kendrick's criticisms himself. Because Kendrick's entire portrayal of Drake on Not Like Us centered around the idea that Drake attacks women connected to his rivals instead of confronting the men directly. If Drake repeats that pattern throughout Iceman, he hands critics everything they need without them even having to argue anymore.
So what exactly is the end goal here? What does Drake realistically gain from releasing a death-heavy revenge album 2 years after the original battle, while still actively fighting lawsuits connected to it? OVO fans will celebrate, streamers will farm reactions, academics will have content for weeks, and then what? Because real career rebuilding doesn't happen through ice sculptures and petty score settling. It happens through music that actually makes people feel something genuine. And honestly, nothing about the Iceman Rollout so far suggests that's the direction this project is heading. And if Drake truly spends this album targeting women connected to his rivals, Rihanna, Serena, Whitney, Virginia, Savannah, then the PR disaster is already built directly into the Rollout itself. Every diss aimed at those women reinforces Kendrick's criticisms perfectly. Every boastful moment gets reflected against 2 years of public contradictions and lawsuits. There really isn't a third outcome here. Either Drake ignores the contradictions and gets destroyed publicly for it, or he tries addressing them directly and makes the situation even worse. Because albums built entirely around unresolved resentment and public grudges rarely age well. Iceman is not shaping up to be the album that saves Drake. It's shaping up to become the final chapter explaining exactly why he needed saving in the first place.